Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The autumn sun shone brightly on John F. Kennedy International Airport, bathing the terminals and planes in an orange glow. In the departure lounge, Elijah Johnson, a 16-year-old black teenager, waited patiently for his flight to Los Angeles. Backpack slung over his shoulder, he read an adventure novel, lost in his imagination. His mother had told him to stay calm, to always be respectful, but what Elijah didn't know was that the real test wasn't on paper, but on the plane. On board, Vanessa Carter, the lead flight attendant, was overseeing boarding. A woman in her 40s, she offered a polite smile to the white passengers, but behind this facade hid a prejudice that many had learned to avoid showing. When her eyes met Elijah's, something in her expression changed. A muted tension, a mixture of contempt and intolerance, flickered across her gaze. "You must leave this plane immediately," she shouted authoritatively, without even checking her ticket. Elijah, surprised and petrified, looked up from his book. I think you're mistaken, madam. I have a ticket," he stammered. Vanessa signaled to two crew members to escort her to the exit. The passengers watched the scene, shocked and silent. Elijah, now red with shame and trembling, followed instructions, unable to understand why he was being treated this way. His heart was pounding. As he was being escorted off the plane, a murmur rippled through the cabin. Some whispered, "It's unfair," while others looked away, uncomfortable. Elijah felt the weight of everyone's gaze, a public humiliation that made him feel tiny. What Vanessa didn't know was that this injustice would have consequences she could never have imagined. Elijah's father, Marcus Johnson, an influential civil rights lawyer, had just learned of the incident. And for Marcus, letting this kind of discrimination go unpunished was inconceivable. This theft, which should have been commonplace, would trigger a chain of events where justice and karma would intertwine, leaving Vanessa confronted with the harsh reality of her prejudices. The next morning, Vanessa Carter arrived at the airport for her shift on a flight to Los Angeles. She thought the incident with Elijah Johnson had been forgotten by everyone, and her mind was already focused on her usual routine, checking tickets, welcoming passengers, and maintaining order in the cabin. Boarding began calmly until a passenger caught her attention. Seated in first class, a tall, imposing man in an impeccable suit exuded a natural authority. His penetrating gaze scrutinized every movement of the crew. Vanessa frowned, a slight shiver of unease running through her. It was Marcus Johnson, Elijah's father. She recognized him immediately. Photos of the humiliated young boy were already circulating in the media, and Marcus had become a public figure, a symbol of the fight against racism. His presence on the plane was no coincidence. As the plane took off, Vanessa felt her heart race. Marcus calmly picked up his phone and called the airline's management. His voice was steady, but every word carried the weight of a judgment. "I'm calling to report an incident on your flight yesterday. My son was unfairly removed from the plane by a flight attendant. I would like an investigation to be opened immediately." Vanessa, frozen behind the counter, felt fear rising within her. Every gesture, every word she had uttered the day before replayed in her mind, amplified by Marcus's accusing gaze. The passengers, unaware of the full story, continued to board, but Vanessa knew her world had just been turned upside down. Upon landing, she was summoned to a private room at the airport. Surveillance videos and witness statements confirmed Elijah's public humiliation. The airline had no choice but to severely punish her. Vanessa finally understood the magnitude of her mistake. Her racist prejudice had just destroyed her reputation, and nothing could erase this humiliation, nor the one she had inflicted on an innocent teenager. Karma, as cruel as it was swift, had just struck. And for Vanessa, yesterday's theft was only the beginning of a long lesson she would never forget. The day after the incident, social media erupted. Amateur videos showed Elijah, red with shame, being escorted off the plane as the passengers looked on in shock. Internet users were outraged by Vanessa Carter's behavior and demanded justice. True to form, Marcus Johnson didn't just express his outrage online. He held a press conference, surrounded by journalists and civil rights activists. Calmly but firmly, he told his son's story. "My son was publicly humiliated yesterday. This is not just a family matter, it's a matter of principle. Racial discrimination has no place on our planes, nor in our society." Vanessa, meanwhile, was repeatedly summoned by the airline. Her hesitant and insincere apologies carried no weight against the evidence presented in the videos and testimonies. She was immediately suspended and faced permanent dismissal. Every message, every online article recounted her humiliation. The photo of Elijah sitting calmly in his seat, surrounded by staff visibly outraged by Vanessa's behavior, circulated endlessly on social media. Meanwhile, Elijah, though shocked and hurt by the incident, found immense support in his community and at school. His friends and teachers encouraged him, praising his dignity in the face of injustice. Marcus, proud of his son, explained to him, "Elijah, what happened to you is cruel, but your courage inspires far more people than you can imagine." Alone and humiliated, Vanessa realized she had lost far more than her temporary job. Her reputation was ruined, her credibility shattered, and the whole world now saw the true face of her prejudices. For the first time, she understood the weight of her actions and the impact they could have on the lives of others. This chapter of his life had just been written in the public eye, and the lesson would be engraved forever: injustice and racism never go unnoticed, and karma always strikes. A few weeks after the incident, Vanessa Carter was still reeling. The airline had decided to fire her permanently, and her name was now synonymous with a major media scandal. Every internet search led back to the viral video of her removing Elijah Johnson, a cruel symbol of her racism. Her colleagues were avoiding her, and even her family was beginning to feel the social impact of her actions. Meanwhile, Elijah and Marcus Johnson received messages and letters of support from all over the world. Elijah, who had been publicly humiliated, became a symbol of dignity and courage. The media began to tell his story from an inspirational angle, showing how he had remained calm in the face of injustice and how his family had transformed a cruel moment into a lesson in courage and justice. One morning, as she was leaving her apartment for the last time before moving to a quieter city, Vanessa received an unexpected letter, an official statement from the airline confirming that all references to her employment would be removed from their website and that her name would be linked to the incident in their internal archives to prevent any future recruitment. The punishment was harsh but justified. She had not only lost her job, but also any hope of rebuilding her reputation in the airline industry. Elijah, for his part, was invited to participate in a youth civil rights conference, where he shared his experience with other teenagers. On stage, he said calmly and confidently, "What happened to me could have broken me, but I chose to remain dignified." Sometimes, the best response to injustice is not anger, but quiet strength and truth. Vanessa watched the broadcast of the conference on television, alone at home. Shame and regret overwhelmed her. She had underestimated the power of dignity and justice. The young boy she had humiliated was no longer the silent victim of yesterday, but a living example of courage and resilience. Thus, karma had struck swiftly and relentlessly. Vanessa learned, too late, that acts motivated by hatred and prejudice always come at a price, and that dignity and justice always find their way, even through the most cruel wounds.